Back at it again. Welcome to the Make Your Point podcast hosted by Chris Henderson. If this is your first time listening to my podcast, I thank you. And if you've heard one of my previous ones before, I thank you and love you for the support. I'm gonna continue on putting out a good message, good 10 to 12 minute podcast about what's going on a daily basis, on a weekly basis within the world, within politics, expressing my opinion and making my point. We're still in season 1. This is episode 3, and today we're going to talk about Trump's Save America Capitol speech. What's the point I'm going to make? Well, this is the point I'm going to make. Trump's Capitol speech was full of passionate, misleading message that fired up his base and led them to do battle on the Capitol just like a coach. On January 6th, the day that Congress is supposed to count the electoral votes, the day that Congress is supposed to certify the electoral votes, and Vice President Mike Pence is going to oversee all those, Trump put together a Save America march, a Save America speech, a Save America rally at Washington, D.C., pretty much right down the street from the Capitol building. And during that time, he had all his cronies, all his lackeys, all his his political leadership supporters there. And I was pushing the message that the election was fraudulent, right? Fraudulent only in those 6 swing states. And it was only fraudulent for those that voted for the president because all the Senate votes and all the House votes that they won and whatnot wasn't fraudulent. The only thing that was fraudulent was those 6 states, those 6 swing states, and also the presidential vote, which to me doesn't make logical sense. But as we know, the states certify the votes as well as the courts kept up with the proceedings through different court hearings and things of that nature, all the way up to the Supreme Court. So, as we know, Vice President Joe Biden is going to be our next president of the United States of America. But going back to President Trump's speech during that January 6th election, he misled his people. Just misled his people. Throughout his 4 years of presidency, it's been a lot of misleading, a lot of spin talk, a lot of on that fine line of not saying it, but saying it. And if he did say it, backpedaling, so it's off the spectrum. And so that he's always on this balancing act of trying to stronghold his base, but then also not trying to eliminate those that would be on his side, those normal, those mediocrity, those centralized people that's going to be on those sides, because he doesn't want to be too much on the extreme, but he loves the extreme, because whatever he does, whatever he says, they're going to support him, they're going to back him, and they're going to be right beside him. But looking at some of the things that he said during his speech, he said he told his people to be there. It will be wild. So he also promised him that something big is going to happen on January 6th. So he's kind of, before the march, the speech started, he already got his people like, something big's going to happen, something big's going to happen. We came here, we flew here, we drove here, we've sat in this cold for hours, we listened to everybody else talk for hours because something big is going to happen. He said, fight much harder against the bad people and show strength against the Capitol. He also said, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. Think about that. And that's what they did hours later. He also said, you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. Think about that. That right there. You have to show strength. You have to be strong. You can't take back our country with weakness. And one of those things, that's rallying up. That's using the idea of violence. That's using the idea of strength to take back our country, instead of the message that you need to vote, right? Instead that you need to elect the people, you need to show out and vote, you need to come together, right? He's saying strength. He's saying be strong. And the idea is that in America, in democracy, that our strength is through our vote. Our strength is through showing up at the polls, right? That's where our strength is, electing the people that's going to represent us, that's going to push our message forward. It's not through strength, through violence. It's not strength that way. It's not showing weakness. Is that coming together on electoral dates, voting, getting your voice be heard. He also said that when you catch somebody in fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules. And what does that mean? You're gonna spin it any way that you like. If you're on one side, right, you're gonna spin it that he means like, okay, we're gonna try to figure out any way to get around this fraudulent void. If you're on the other side, you're gonna say this means this. But when you listen to that, when you say when you catch somebody in fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules. And what rules? The rules that we have are rules of democracy. That means that we vote. If there is something that you think is fraudulent within the vote, you go to the courts, the judicial system, you prove your case, or you show your case, you prove your case. And in this time, they filed over 60 plus lawsuits to try to prove their case that it was fraudulent. But in the court, they couldn't claim fraudulent. And so it was this mixed message where the people, the supporters, the Trumpers thought that it was about fraud, that they're going to court to prove fraud. But when they got to court, they weren't proving fraud. Fraud wasn't the thing that they put in place, because if they did that, then they'll be open liable to other cross examinations, to other lawsuits for the company. So they had to prove something different. And in that case, every time they were either thrown out, they had no evidence, or that the courts ruled against them. Also on that January 6th speech from Trump, he also said, make Pence do the right thing. What does that mean? Make Pence do the right thing. I mean, Mike Pence at this time is vice president overseeing the electoral college vote certification, electoral votes county. He has no power there. All he does is oversee it. When they put him up to vote, he certifies it. He's there as a watcher, overseer. He has no power in this case. So once again, Trump misled his voters, his supporters, to think that Trump has some overseeing power to change the election. And if that's the case, then every vice president would change the election to whoever they want to win, because they would have that power. And then the people's vote would mean nothing, right? There would have been Al Gore changing it to win, or whatever's the case, whoever's the vice president, whoever they wanted to win, if they had that power, it didn't matter what the people voted, right? The vice president could just oversee it, overturn it, and just select whoever they want to. So once again, Trump misled his people. And then lastly, we said, we will never give up, never concede. As a peaceful transition of power through American history, the idea of conceding is not only for the other side, but it's also for your side. And said that I recognize the person beat me. I recognize the person has more votes than I did, and I'm going to concede to them. I'm going to pass my power, or pass the power that I tried to fight for, that I tried to win, that I tried to get elected for, to the next person, so America can move forward, democracy can move forward, and that we can have this continuous cycle of I'll get them next time in the election. I'll do better in the next election. I'll have a better message. I'll get my people to come out and vote in better numbers. I'll do things better next time. But if we have that message of we will never give up, we'll never concede, that we're constantly fighting, that you constantly fighting, constantly arguing, some side, some theory, some ideology that you didn't win. No, you didn't win. You didn't win because of this. You didn't win because of that. You win because there was some possibility of this and that happening. And what's that? It's taking the its and bits and pieces of democracy away, right? And democracy, laws, judicial system, all the things that are the hard rock of American politics, American society, American civilization, is on the ideas of rules, people following those rules, and when those rules are broken, that it's the system itself and the people that are placed within the system to do the right thing, to do the right things on the books, and to keep it going, right? Because if I break a law and then nobody prosecutes me for breaking that law, then the system is broken. Or if I break a law and then they prosecute me, but the judge or the juries, they're on my side and they don't convict that person or convict me, then the system is broken. So it has to take, and the different steps of levels that American society puts together, there has to be somebody within those levels to do the right thing, to stand up. If it doesn't, the whole system crumbles and everybody gets to do whatever they want to, or they feel at that side. And so the idea of never giving up, never conceding, is the idea is that we're in this constant battle of this could happen, that could happen, this could happen, that, and we need to move forward. I'm going to do better next time. If President Trump conceded this time and said, okay, Joe Biden, you won, but I'm gonna run again in 2024. I'm going to put out a better message. I'm going to get my people to support me better, and hopefully I win. There's nothing wrong with that. But this constant idea, we're gonna fight within each other. We're gonna fight against it. Everything is a fraud. This happened. This could have happened. This potentially could have happened. I saw one person that did this, but I have no evidence. Right? You're always just chipping away at the integrity of democracy, and that's just not good for his people. So once again, right, this misleading speech that Trump always pushing, he's always on that fine line of where he can lean one way or he can lean the other way. It depends on how you see it, right? That vagueness in his term, push the people that were already riled up to walk down the street, go to the Capitol building, and when they got there, all that energy, all that fired up, just like a coach, right? What do? You kind of just storm. You kind of just attack. You kind of just go forward. Some already had that idea. Some already had that plan in place. But when you get that coach, if Trump's your coach, you get that coach to get you fired up. I mean, anything is possible, right? People win championships is possible. People do beyond their means because of the verbal insignia, the verbal enticement, the verbal fired up they get from their coach, their leader, that's going to support them, that's going to be right there beside them, that believes what they believe. I thank you for the time. Continue to listen to my short little message and support. Comment if you got any ideas, want me to talk about something. I thank you. I'll see you next time.